Hi everybody, it's Katie and today I am going to be doing my October wrap-up. I did a lot of reading this month and I have a lot of news to share with you about this month. Let's just dig into it. First of all, the amount of things cover to cover I have read this month is a total of 29, okay? And I'll go into what those things entail in a moment. That's not going to happen again next month, in the month of November, because I got a full-time job, which is good because that's exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for a full-time job. I also, took the time that I had before getting that full-time job and before I started to just read. So the start of October, I knew I wanted to get a full-time job, and I did. And I knew I wanted to catch up on my Goodreads challenge, and I did, and I exceeded it. I did a lot of reading, guys. Granted, I'll be honest, most of this is comic books. Let's just start. I got too much going on. Let's just start so that I can put these books away later. The first book that I read, it was Bloodline by Claudia Gray. I don't have a book here to show you because it was an audiobook. So to represent that right now, picture my grandfather, because it's my bloodline. Bloodline by Claudia Gray. I have been in this massive Star Wars kick as of late. I bought a Kylo Ren lightsaber while I was at Disney. I got my dog for Halloween, a R2-D2 costume. I mean, I've been on a Star Wars kick, and I am not ashamed of that at all. I'm very happy about that. And so Bloodline is what takes place before The Force Awakens. It's a prequel. I really wanted it to have more Ben Solo in it. This was definitely a political side of what caused The Force Awakens, but I also really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Claudia Gray's other book that I read, Lost Stars, which I have done a review for. I will leave a link to that in the description down below. I do have a review video coming out for Bloodline very soon, so be on the lookout for that. I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. The next book that I read was a Rick Riordan book. You'll see that being an overlying arch. And that was Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase, The Gods of Asgard, and The Hammer of Thor. This book I actually got before it was supposed to come out because Walmart had it out early. I don't know why, but they did, so I got it. And I was not ashamed of getting it early. So this is the second book in Rick Riordan's Gods of Asgard series, where Magnus Chase finds out that he is the son of a god, on responsibilities that come with that, and that includes finding Thor's hammer. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the whole aspect of it, really. The Magnus Chase book I gave a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. There is a review video coming out for that soon. Next book that I read is one that I actually finished this month. I had started it back in July, and between moving out of my apartment and moving back home and then moving across the country and then settling in and trying to find a job, I didn't have time to sit down and finish the book. In August by J.L. Berg. This is a contemporary read. It is about a guy named August who wakes up in the hospital with complete amnesia. He has no idea who he is, no idea where he came from. The only thing he has to start figuring that out is his wallet, where he finds a picture of a girl. And he goes and he finds this girl, and he's hoping to find out some answers, but they are answers that he does not like. And he tries to become a better man because of those answers. This is a duology. Forgetting August is the first one, and Remembering Everly is the second one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And yeah, there will also be a video review coming out for this one soon. The next book that I read was also one that I had started but not finished. Around the same time as Forgetting August, Once Lost by Sarah Zarr. This is about a girl who is just struggling with life and everything that is going on with it. Her mother gets put into a rehabilitation center for alcoholism at the same time that her father is basically broke, at the same time that a girl from her church goes missing. And she just doesn't know how to cope. And this is a book where she learns how to cope. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. The next book that I read was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Rakes. I don't even know how to describe this book. This book was a mind trip in a way. However, I didn't really get the addictive part to it that I saw so many other booktubers talking about. It's about a guy who watches his grandfather die, and he is left with a cryptic message, and he goes across the world to try and determine what this cryptic message means. And what he finds is mind-blowing. This is part of a trilogy, and there will also be a book review coming out for it soon. The next book that I read this month was one that I tried to read like back in August because of the Ostentatious Book Club, which I wanted to get involved in, read by Zoe. But again, I was moving across the country and everything went haywire and I just didn't have the time to. And I read this in electronic format, so I'm just holding up my e-reader. And that book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. There will be a video coming out where I give you the most insane version of Pride and Prejudice summary ever. And I definitely think that I'm going to leave it for that video to tell you my summary of Pride and Prejudice, because it was an insane video. It was an insane way to describe Pride and Prejudice, but I'm also really excited for how I did it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. This was my venture into classic books, really for the first time on my own that wasn't required reading. I mean, that stigma of classics being required reading in school was definitely something that I had to overcome. But I'm glad that I did and that I read it. The next 2 books were really books that I read just to try to get my book reading count up. And they are like 2 little quote books. Thoughts About Friends and Grateful for You. They're short, like seriously, but they had some really nice quotes in them. Friendship is Love with Understanding by Unknown. And that is Thoughts About Friendship. And a quote from Grateful for You is, the friend in my adversity I shall always cherish most. I can better trust those who help to relieve the gloom of my dark hours than those who are so ready to enjoy with me the sunshine of my prosperity. And that is by Ulysses S. Grant. I think I rated them like 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. There's not going to be a review on those. The next book that I read is a book of poetry by Edgar Allan Poe. I've had this book forever, and it's always just kind of been one that I pick up when I'm feeling a little, angsty. Sat down and I read all of it, and it has a lot of poems by Edgar Allan Poe in here. A lot. From The Raven to The Happiest Day, to The River, The Valley of Unrest. I mean, it's got a lot in here. For Annie, El Dorado, The Bells, Silence, A Haunted Place. It's got so much in here. And it's a cute little edition. Like, look at that. That's adorable. This is the Bloomsbury Poetry Classics edition. They have editions for almost everything. Robert Burns, Rupert Brooks, Thomas Gray, Andrew Marvell, Walt Whitman. The list just goes on and on and on. And I gave that a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads because you can't go wrong with Edgar Allan Poe. The next book that I read was Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, which is the second book in the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief series. A while ago when I was doing a readathon, I read the Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and I really enjoyed it, and I had bought the box set, so I was really glad that I enjoyed it. This book, it continues on about a year after the Lightning Thief left off, and I have to say this was probably my favorite book so far. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm close to finishing it. But this is my favorite book so far. I have found that a lot of people don't like this book as much, but you know, that could also be the second book slump, so that might be why. So I rated this book 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. There will be a video review for that coming up. Next book that I read was absolutely horrible, and I hated it, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars because that's just, I don't give 1 stars. It's really, yeah. And that is Mistaken for a Call Girl by Charlie Day. This girl, she goes for a job interview, and she ends up being raped by the guy that is supposed to be giving her the job interview, and it's because he's really a vampire, and he was waiting for his call girl to show up, and he thought that this girl was the call girl, so they gave her amnesia, and she ended up then like mating with the guy permanently, and I thought that was absolutely horrible. The next book that I read is Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. This was pretty close to being my favorite, but the Sea of Monsters just kind of knocked it out of the parks for me. I gave this a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. This takes place about 6 months after it left off in the Sea of Monsters, where he has to show up at camp suddenly due to circumstances that it opens right up with. So, 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. There will be a video review coming up for this at some point in the future. It's filmed, I just haven't posted it. So, now starts my massive amount of comic books. We have Don't Call Her the Cavalry. We have a S.H.I.E.L.D. comic, followed by another S.H.I.E.L.D. comic, followed by another S.H.I.E.L.D. comic. Then a Journey into Mystery, and another Journey into Mystery, followed by more S.H.I.E.L.D. comics, though I will come back to these because, yeah. Followed by Inhumans, followed by Loki, another Loki, Vote Loki, Vote Loki, and Vote Loki. So these, oh my gosh, these were a mind trip. Imagine the S.H.I.E.L.D. being the S.H.I.E.L.D. that we currently know, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and Phil Coulson in the movies and stuff like that, being the second S.H.I.E.L.D. that there is. And the first S.H.I.E.L.D. here is like a whole bunch of historical figures like Galileo and Donatello and Tony Stark's father and Isaac Newton. And, oh my god, and, like, they all time travel, and it's insane. So, if you want a mind trip, I would go for these comics, because good gravy, they will give you a mind trip. I did not rate any of the comics on Goodreads. Almost done with what I read this month. The next book that I read this month was Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. I have heard that this is so many people's favorite books. This book, it took me a little longer to read, but that's because I had started the new full-time job at teaching, and so, yeah, I did really enjoy this. I think part of the enjoyment was taken out because I was so stressed about what my first week teaching mid-term was going to be like. But I really did enjoy this, and I really did like it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And I think that was really just because I got so absorbed in everything else while I was trying to read. And there will be a video review coming out for that at some point. Last book that I read this month, in the month of October, is Morgan the Jersey Spy. I gave this a 2 stars on Goodreads. I'm not a big historical fiction person. And I read this so that I would have, you know, some background knowledge in it while I was teaching it to my children in the class, and I did a whole bunch of questions on it, and yeah. So, that is all that I have read this month, and that's a lot. And so the last few things that I really kind of want to get into for this video is my TBR for November, as well as purchases. So real quickly, right now, all I am committing to for my TBR is 1 book. Obviously, there will be more books, but I have 1 book that I am for sure going to read, and that is Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian. This is the final book in the Percy Jackson series, and I'm really excited to read this. I've really enjoyed every other Rick Riordan book that I have read so far, so I really don't see this being any different. And that is all I'm really going to commit to this month, because, you know, in past month I've said I'm going to read this book, I'm going to read that book, and it doesn't happen. I bought 1 book in the month of October, and that is Mojo by Tim Tharp. This is a story about a girl who goes missing and how 2 students at the local high school don't think that the cops are doing their job because they're not paying attention to these students who know information. So in order to get the officers' attention, they pick up on another situation that is happening across town, and they go and start to investigate it. But lo and behold, they find clues that tell you that the 2 different situations are connected, and the only 2 people that know about it are the boys in this book. It sounds like a really interesting read. It was, I bought it at the dollar store, so, you know, who knows what I'll get from a dollar store book, but I'm pretty sure that if it lives up to the description of this book, I think that it will definitely be a good read, and I'm excited to read it. So tell me what you think about my insane month of reading, cause that's what it was. It was insane. And tell me what books you think I should read next, what books that in my description that I did read for this month that you found interesting, and follow me on all of my different social media. I'm on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchats, and Goodreads. All of that information will be in the description box down below. And insert a creative outro, and I will talk to you later. Bye!